Hello, welcome back to another video. This is just a little quick introduction because I really can't be bothered to like sit down and do an introduction today, and I'm not going to give you my stats today because soon I will be posting my yearly stats, and so can just like have it as that. There'll be stats in there. However, I did read 8 books in December, which is quite a lot of books. So, you know, gear up for a like fun wrap up. Grab yourself a cup of tea or a coffee or a water or something else, or don't. And come and join me as I give you my thoughts on those 8 books that I read throughout December. There's quite a variety, so I hope you enjoy. Okay, on to the very first book of December. Bye. Hello, good morning. I figured I would do a little quick wrap up while I wait for my work computer to load. It is bright and early on the 2nd of December. It is about 5 to 8. I'm about to start work, but I thought I would show you my first read of December. Let me just log in. And that is Twas the Nightshift Before Christmas by Adam Kay, which is a very short novella. It's like a follow-on from his first book, This Is Going to Hurt. This one hits the exact same sort of like tone as This Is Going to Hurt, and I really enjoyed it. It is so funny at times and then so upsetting and sad at times, and it talks a lot about like grief during the holidays as well, and like obviously working during the holidays, but also like when patients die and things like during the holidays. And personally I can relate to that a lot. Like I've had a lot of people in my life die specifically in December, and so I liked the fact that it spoke about that. Generally I just loved it. It's really, really quick. I would really recommend it. It's a really great like insight into the NHS, and also just like a nice reminder to think about the people that are having to work over Christmas. Also, there was like one point where like near the end, and it was like describing Christmas traditions and like how different people have like different Christmases, and I literally, I'll insert the clip, I couldn't stop laughing. You might be able to hear me kind of like mumbling apple in that, and it was because like right at the end, I'll read out a small excerpt. Each item in the stocking, even if it's a vodka miniature, is intricately wrapped and adorned with a fucking bow, except for some reason the tangerine and the apple. An apple? The first time I saw one being produced from the toe of a stocking, I assumed it was for the horse that was about to trot in, because by that point nothing would have surprised me. Excellent, I love it. So yeah, that was my first quick read for December. Would recommend, really funny. And if you haven't read This Is Going to Hurt, do. I think it's been very hyped, but I think it's hyped for a reason, and I actually don't think it's overhyped. I know some people are like, okay, well that was just like fine, but I think it's hyped for the best reason, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. On to the next one. Hello. So on the evening of the 8th of December, I finished Book for Christmas by Lily Menon, which is a short story novella. Lily Menon is Sandra Menon's like alter ego for when she writes adult fiction, which I didn't know until I read this book. Sandra Menon wrote When Dimple Met Rishi, and I really liked When Dimple Met Rishi, so I was really excited to give this a go, and it was it was kind of ridiculous. It's a short story, so obviously it's very fast paced, and it's basically like an enemies to lovers short story that follows like this author that writes romance novels and this like book critic that like hated her book basically, and they miraculously and ridiculously end up at the same party. It's actually her party, and he comes to it not knowing it's her party. Blah, blah, blah. I buddy read this with Anne from Anne's Bookish Corner on YouTube. It was so fun buddy reading it with her. I loved it, so please go check out her channel. So we were like discussing it as we were going along about how like kind of ridiculous it is, and I mean it's very fluffy, it's very like Christmassy, themed over Christmas. I liked that there were books involved. The actual romance I felt in no way, but that's not to say I didn't enjoy the book. Like, I just didn't feel the couple at all. Hated the guy. Yeah, there were some ridiculous metaphors, but I can't even, I don't know. It was not a deep book, let's just say that. I also wanted to quickly mention there was like a few moments clearly been trying to be inclusive to like the LGBTQ plus community, specifically to trans people and to sapphic couples, and there was like two moments with this that I found really uncomfortable. So in the book she refers to Jonah as a trans man, but there's like no space in between trans man, it's trans man. I've been doing a lot of research into it and I'm pretty sure that is, without the space, it's implying that Jonah isn't a man. It's like specifically a trans man, but without the space it's not a trans man, it's a whole different thing. And I've been reading a lot into it and I don't think that's the correct term that should have been used. So that's a bit interesting and disappointing. The other thing I wanted to mention was there's a sapphic couple, like a very side character sapphic couple. They don't really have much depth, to be honest. I mean, it's a short story, there's a limited amount of depth they can get anyway, but okay. There was like a moment where like they were stood under the mistletoe and then everyone was like, kiss, kiss, kiss. And then they kissed, and then after they kissed, everyone applauded. It was really weird. And then like a chapter or so later, like her and the main guy kissed under the mistletoe in like a kiss, kiss, kiss situation. No one applauded because like that's weird. And specifically the fact that it happened with the two girls, I'm like, feels a little bit meant to be nice, meant to be like celebrating love, but felt weird. Don't know what anyone else thinks about that, but I thought it was really strange. I mean, they are married, so it wasn't, I don't know. I had complicated feelings on it. Anyway, that's my novella take. I was excited to read a book on my Kindle for the first time. Very exciting. Yeah, I will see you in the next one. Hello. So I've just got back from doing my weekly shop / doing my, oh my God, turns out I can't go home for Christmas fully. So need to have more food in the house. Luckily, I can still go home on Christmas Day, which is, I'm so grateful for. So many people aren't going to be able to give context. If you don't live in the UK, we've basically been put, everyone that's in tier 4, which is like a higher risk of COVID, can't go home for Christmas. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense, just really hard for people. And I'm not going to see my sisters, which is really sad. But I do get to go home. Anyway, this is clearly not what this is about. Whilst doing my shop, I finished my audiobook that I've been listening to. And that is Sitting Pretty, The View from My Ordinary Resilient Disabled Body by Rebecca Tausig. Oh my God, this book was fantastic. So I literally stumbled upon it on my audiobook library app. Like, I'd never heard of it before and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. It's like 5 hours. It's incredible. It's narrated by her, which I loved. That was amazing. And then the whole book, it like unpicks disability. It unpicks the term able-bodied and like ableism and like what we as able-bodied people do that we might think is kind, and it's like the complications of kindness and like it's actually not kind at all. And like it unpicks the like notion of like independence and like why is independence valued as this one specific, like this is the goal, when actually like an independent dependent sort of relationship is equally completely valuable. It was so interesting. I really would recommend it. Oh, a squirrel. Am I literally that dog from Up that like literally gets distracted by a squirrel?
So that I may talk, squirrel!
Okay, anyway, I was distracted. Like it talked about a lot of topics within disability that I've never had to think about before. I thought I knew, but I really didn't. And like, that's really shown me how much more kind of reading I want to do into topics surrounding disability. I have like quite a general knowledge, I guess, in terms of disability. My partner has a disability, so in that way I know a lot about his specific disability, but not about general issues. Like his is a hidden disability, which is obviously a lot different from if you have a very visible disability. Just, yeah, I think it's really interesting, and this book kind of unpicks all of that, and it unpicks feminism and like her relationship with feminism and like the feminist movement and like the feeling of being in a group of friends all talking about feminism, and her as a woman as a disabled woman, being there and being like, I actually can't relate to anything that you're saying, was so interesting. So many things I'd never thought about before because I've never had to think about before. It also talked about like jobs and the struggles of finding accommodation and like having to prioritize having health benefits over like a job that you desperately want, and like a creative job, which is also really interesting and also shit. And it talked about like the issues of social security in America and how it makes it so difficult. Yeah, so to sum up, like 5 stars, 100% 5 stars. Like, this was a fantastic read. I'm so glad that I found it randomly on the audiobook app. And I hope that you read it. Please let me know if anyone has read it below. I will see you in the next book, which will be later today, I think. But we'll see. Also, apologies if I've been looking here. I'm using my front-facing camera. Look, we're in the car. You know. Okay, bye. So here's the situation about this book. I forgot to mark this as read on Goodreads. I forgot to film this clip here. I don't know what I was doing. I think I finished it in the evening and I was like, I'll do the clip tomorrow. And then I absolutely didn't do the clip tomorrow. I think I finished this one on the 21st, like in the evening. So that's what we're going with. Hello, it's the 21st. It's not. So anyway, this book is Last Christmas, and it's like a collection of short essays curated by Greg Wise and Emma Thompson. I was kindly gifted this book last year from Quercus Books. I started it last year. I got maybe like 3/4 of the way through, and then it was after Christmas. We were going into January, and I was just like, I don't want to finish this book right now. So I didn't. I paused it for the whole year. It was marked as currently reading for the whole year on my Goodreads, and I finally picked it up to finish it. It's a really lovely like small collection. It's kind of a mixture of like famous people talking about like their Christmases and what Christmas means to them, or memories of past Christmases, mixed in with other people like political refugees, homeless people, lots of just other people. And to be honest, I kind of preferred those ones. I found those much more interesting. Although I think the balance is good, because finding out famous people's what they do for Christmas, I'm very nosy. That's kind of interesting. But I think the ones just from regular people kind of meant a lot more. But yeah, it was really interesting to like kind of see what Christmas means to many people, whether they celebrate it or not, and all of different religions, and like how Christmas intersects into their life when they don't celebrate it at all. And it's like a really lovely book. So, you know, have this on your radar for next year. So yeah, on to the next one. Hello! Okay, hello. It is the 22nd of December, and last night I finished Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. I am on roller skates, that is why I'm weirdly leaning like this. Let me try and do a lunge. I might just grab the phone. Anyway, so last night I finished Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. This book was amazing, but it also took me like, I don't know, honestly like 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks to finish, which is really weird. I think it caught me whilst I was like entering a slump, and I think if I wasn't in a slump, I would have read it really quickly. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. This book is about 11 black women and 1 non-binary black person in Britain, in the UK, and it kind of each tells their individual stories, but they're all very much interlinked in some way, and as you go throughout you kind of see the intersections and the links. And I think the way that Bernardine Evaristo is able to give such depth to characters in such a short amount of time, because the book isn't like long, it's like, okay, it's like over 400 pages, so it's not short, but the fact that you can have such depth into characters in that amount of time, because there are 12 of them, is like fantastic. I think the way that the characters are written was just amazing. It's set in the past, it's set like currently, it just kind of tells stories from all over Britain, and I think it was amazing. I think the way that it was told was really interesting, and all the stories were so different. Like every story took a different path, obviously, as people do in their lives. So yeah, I think overall I really enjoyed this one. I'm quite sad that I read it during a slump, but I was already like halfway through and I was like, I will finish it. But it makes me think when I'm in like a super reading zone, I'd want to reread this one and kind of appreciate it a bit more. But yeah, I really liked it, and I'm really excited to try out some more of Bernardine Evaristo's books. So yeah, that's me. Yeah, hopefully I'll get a bit more reading done this Christmas. There's a few books I definitely want to finish, and then there's a few that I'm excited to read. So yeah, on to the next one. Hello, so I'm shook that I'm coming to speak to you again so quickly from when I last did. So today is the 23rd of December, and last night in the bath, I finished this book. I literally basically read the whole of this book yesterday. I think I'd read like 10 pages the day before, so I basically read 280 pages. I'm just so proud of myself. I'm proud that I managed to switch off my brain enough to actually sink into the whole book, and this is why I love reading thriller-esque books over Christmas, because I can sink into them. Sometimes I can't sink into other books. Anyway, so I finished This Is Not the Jess Show by Anna Carey, which is coming out in February next year, and this is published by Quirk Book. Oh, it's like, what is that banging? But my neighbour's hoovering. It is published by Quirk Books, and this is a gifted copy, so thank you very much. I really liked this book. It was so fun. It was not deep. I was going to rate it 3 stars, but then I rated it 4 stars because of the fact that I read it so quickly. Like, I wanted to bump it up a little bit because not many books I can do that with, and so I thought it deserved the extra star. I don't want to give the full concept of this book because if you don't know, you won't want to know until you know. So confusing. Basically, it's kind of like a My So-Called Life mixed with Black Mirror-esque YA thriller, and I loved it. It was so fun. It kind of discusses like what's true, what's real, what's fiction, what's fact, like within this girl's life. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It was really fast-paced. It kept me going. I think I wouldn't say it was like unpredictable. Like I definitely kind of knew what was coming, but that didn't stop me from really enjoying it. I think the whole concept is really fun. I think this was a great book for me to read at this moment when I was like kind of slumping a little bit. This has like pulled me back and I'm so excited. I think I'm going to read a thriller next as well. And just generally, like, what a fun book. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say what I want to say because I don't want to spoil it if you don't know going in. I knew a specific thing going into the book, which didn't ruin it for me, but I knew it was coming, whereas I'm not going to say it. So if you do read this book, you won't know it's coming. How vague and ominous, and you're not going to know what I'm talking about. If, like, the fact that it's a YA thriller and it's kind of like a mix of Black Mirror and kind of like really analysing like what's real in your life sounds interesting to you, then pick this one up in February, and thank you again to Quirk Books for the review copy. On to the next one. Hello, happy Christmas Eve. Popping in to say happy Christmas Eve. And also the fact that I finished this book here, The Night Before Christmas by, is it Clement Clarke Moore, the poem? This, I was like, do I count this as a book? Do I count this as reading a book? And then I was like, I don't care. I've beat my challenge ages ago. It's not about the challenge anymore, and I read this book. It's a book, so who cares? So I did include it. This edition specifically is one that we used to read as kids every single year, so it was a bit emotion reading it, a bit nostalgic. It is, I will show you. I'm like this, so I don't know if you'll be able to see. Like a pop-up version. Yeah, it's like, it's great. It's a really cool version. Nostalgia. I would go as far to say as it's my favourite poem, but I don't read poetry. Yeah, nostalgic, great read. Will not be finishing a book tomorrow as it is Christmas, but Merry Christmas everybody, and I will see you at some point between Christmas and the New Year probably, let's be honest. Yeah. Okay, bye. Merry Christmas. Okay, so it is a few days after I finished this one. I finished this on New Year's Eve, the 31st of December. and now we are into January, we are into 2021. So this is the final book that I read in December, and this is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So this is a thriller, and it is a thriller completely rooted and based around gentrification of a small community in Brooklyn. So we follow Sydney, and from the very start of the book, it's clear that her neighbourhood is disappearing before her eyes. Like, her local shops are disappearing and being replaced by shops owned by white people. White people are moving into the neighbourhood, and from the get-go it is exploring gentrification and like the very sinister side of gentrification. I want to start by saying that I really recommend checking out Jess's video. I'm going to link it below. They made a video all about thrillers by BIPOC authors and how white people dismiss them as not being thrillers because they're not living up to what we think thrillers are as white people, and kind of encouraging you to really consider like why you don't think it's a thriller. It's a really interesting video. I would highly recommend giving it a watch. I mean, this book is so clearly a thriller. I really enjoyed it as a thriller. I think it's not a fast-paced thriller, but it's definitely a thriller. I couldn't put it down. I wanted to keep reading. I think as you go through, it gets just so scary as more and more people start to disappear, and Sydney as a narrator was really interesting to follow, and Theo as well, and their conversations were really interesting. I am really interested to read more thrillers by authors of colour because I think this was such a refreshing take on a thriller, obviously dealing with a really hard topic, and the way that it was incorporated with aspects into the thriller was really interesting. And so I think it really is baffling how people are like, this isn't a thriller because it's like not fulfilling what I think a thriller is. Okay, anyway, so yeah, I'd be really interested to read more thrillers by authors of colour, because white authors absolutely dominate the thriller genre. I've never read a book like this before, and I would really recommend it. So that is the final read of December. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this like situation within this wrap up. I had a lot of fun making it. Please let me know if you have read any of these books. I'd love to have a chat with you because they're still all very much fresh in my mind. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you so wish. And I will see you in a new video. Bye. Should we just do it one last time for the fun? Bye.